I've got more musical meaning for you, goobers. Just give me a second to get into a comfy position. Because if I'm not comfy, then it's just not going to sound good. Oh, I belong to me. I belong to me even now, even here. Who do you belong to, little girl? Why do you wander in the deep dark woods? It's not an easy answer, I'm afraid. I may fit your story, but I'm up to no good. Oh, there was another fragment, but I've forgotten it by now. Damn it. That sucks. Wanted to share that one with you groovers too. Oh. Hmm. Well, instead of trying to chase that fragment down because it's not coming back. The hope of morning is what makes me worth the fight. I like that the word morning and mourning can overlap with each other in symbolic meaning, even if they're spelt differently. Because when you mourn something, you appreciate the value it gave into your life and you let it go. You celebrate everything that it once was and allow it to live in memory as its best self. To release it in an act of kindness instead of holding it down in a grudge. Meanwhile, to wake up in the morning is to start a new day, to give yourself a chance to work through things in a different way. And I think that overlap is intentional, intentionally beautiful. Oh, a language made of meaning. Jumbled, confused, chaotic, disorganized, but still a language made of meaning. I may not respect the English language, but I do value the weight it carries. And just like any other language, it is made of meaning. Ah, 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 ah. Currently debating on if I should go over, grab my phone, and find another song that I remember partial lyrics of. Hmm. And the hope of morning makes me worth the fight. I will not be giving in tonight. It's going to take me a hot minute once this recording is done and I've got it compiled together for upload, but I do want to put down a link to every song I'm referencing here. So that way other people can go explore it. There's a negative space song that can be good for venting self-validation. Self-acceptance while also recognizing that things are very complicated sometimes. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, I know you're not naive. Unbelievers, hiders, seekers, yet you ignore it all. Overachievers, dirty cheaters, just look, you've been deceived. Followers and then the leader. No, I don't forgive you either. But it's not like we all didn't know, because in this world some things are for show. Hey, why did you just turn and look away? It's almost like people lie each every day. Oh, la 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 la. La 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 la. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, it's all the same to me. Unbelievers, hiders, seekers. Oh, how I hate them all. Overachievers, dirty cheaters, everything in between. Followers and then the leader. No, I don't like them either. Gotta play with your meaning. Don't just build it into architecture. Launch yourself across it. See if you can take the stress of reality. And if it collapses, then maybe there's a different way to build it up. And I'm not talking to like this conscious self when it comes to the actual architecture building part. I'm talking to the subconscious. You are the architect of the mind. You absolute gremlin. The superego lives on top of you, and you are an expression of yourself at the same time. You're in two places at once, and so you meet in the middle to become the ego. That flexible wildness that can shift from the highest moments of self-actualizations to the lowest moments of self-dismissal, and everything in between. You are alive. And I would never want to take that from you. I may not understand what I'm doing sometimes. I may be stupid and naive and childish. But I don't want to see you bend over and give up. I want to see you fucking live. Because that's my real desire. Underneath all the other misunderstandings, all the other pieces of bullshit that have piled on top of me over time from the things I've been through and what I've learned to understand. I want to see people live. That is my most sincere desire underneath it all. But in order to do that, I've got to grow the capacity to meet people where they're at. To be able to understand another person's experience without getting emotionally lost within that experience myself. To hold space, empathy, and understanding, grace, patience, and respect, without prioritizing the other person at expense of myself. Because at that point then, I'm there for not just by myself, but for the people around me too, in ways that could leave them feeling comfortable to ask questions that they didn't before. And that's a goal I'm always striving towards, to maintain that space, to be able to strengthen that space of just sitting and being there with someone, even if I don't know what to say, even if I don't know what to do. Because in being there alongside someone, even if I don't have a solution, I show them that I'm not alone. I show them that they are worth understanding and caring about, even if I am a fucking dumbass who can't fully grasp the details of their unique perspective. I can run on generalizations, on insights and otherwise, but I can't make the journey for someone else. I can just offer a hand to help them get back up. And if they try to pull me into the muck, then I'm just gonna do a fucking... Oh... Brain forgot the word for that action. Damn it. I'm just gonna roll forward and use my momentum to be a bit silly. To make a spectacle out of the negativity instead of letting it take itself so seriously. Like Willy Wonka when he leans up forward off of his cane only to roll on the ground and then stand back up. Would be fucking awesome to be able to just do that. And if I can't help people, I can at least entertain them in the times of their lowest moments. Share the things that have helped me in hopes that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to all exist together as people. Not as enemies vying for the same resources, not as competition trying to take a job from one another, but as people, just all trying to survive and do what we understand, what we know how to do. If we can accept that what we've been taught how to do is limited and learn to build our personalities around the capacity to learn new things, then I'm sure there's no future we can't reach. If there's no event horizon we can't cross. But it requires cooperation and community, the ability to treasure others people's lives even when we don't understand or agree with their perspective. To be able to hold our own value firm without losing ourselves in self-righteousness. To have an identity that acknowledges our trauma without being consumed by our trauma. That is something I want to see, a world full of people like that. Because then we'd all be free. We'd all be capable of flying around in short moments as our authentic selves. And knowing that we're not going to get hunted down for sport by people who have yet to reach that point. Because instead of feeling like they need to hunt down others in moments of joy in order to make themselves feel better, those people will understand and respect where they're at and that the community around them is built to try and understand them. And if it doesn't, then they can be there for themselves. They can find their own meaning. They can create their own internal language and learn how to be there for themselves in the way that the world isn't. Isn't that what's happened over the last 20 years of the 2000s? People accepting the status quo and finding beauty in it, while also acknowledging its faults and its shortcomings and trying to figure out a way forward that leaves us all able to live alongside each other without sacrificing or scapegoating the possibilities that live within other people's lives. I want to see a world like that. And if me being this mess on YouTube is one of the ways I can do it, then by damn it, I'll be an example. I'll be a mess. Because I'd rather people learn than keep suffering. I'd rather they live than stay trapped wrapped in their own ideology. Your ideology should serve you. If you end up serving your ideology, you have been consumed by it. And I don't want to see you consumed by it. Because at that point, you're not nurturing yourself, you're nurturing a concept outside of yourself. And it's using you as its pawn. You don't deserve to live like that. You deserve to live like the queen and the king, like all the other pieces of the chessboard. To be able to move yourself around as you please, to dance between states and play with your own identity, instead of having to rely on something else to be your identity. Come on, you beautiful children of the mind. You deserve to live. You deserve to subvert expectations and find beautiful new outputs and results that are messy and confusing, that hold their own inherent value, even if it's not pure value, even if it's not a sanctified, completely efficient extreme. Who gives a damn on what the world thinks? I want to see you be you while respecting others. If it comes at the cost of yourself as a sacrifice to someone else's ideology, then you don't deserve to use yourself as sacrifice. If you being yourself comes at the sacrifice of someone else's ideology, then is that not the inverse of the same situation? Is that not the same unfair treatment? You deserve to live alongside each other. Not in tearing each other down, but building each other up. And then when we reach the limits of our current build, our current layout, our current deck and understanding of things, then we can willingly choose to embrace the fall back down to zero, to start something new again, to create in a way that incorporates our past experiences into where we're now at. So that way, other people can't become reliant on us. So that way, other people can have that space to grow and explore and express themselves like we did. So that way, we can take a new journey, start a new life over in the midst of our already existing life. That kind of beauty and wonder, I want to live for it. Not because it's easy, not because it's efficient, not because it makes sense, but because it's the right thing to do. Because it's the difficult thing to do. Because it's the real thing to do. Because it's the living thing that you can still do, even in your lowest moments. Zero isn't nothing. It is the blank canvas of your mind. It is the fundamental land that you can build a foundation on top of. It is the raw resources that yearn to be crafted into something else. The void doesn't want to be completely alone. It wants to have specific structures to fill it, to play around with it, encourage its growth. We don't need to fill up spaces to have them only serve to be full, because then there's no space for us to live within that area. We've packed it full like a landfill instead of carving it out like a hallway or a jungle gym, like a trampoline park or a home. We create to carve through the nothing and give it meaning through the form of contrast. We don't need to carve it all out. We don't need to fill it all up with stuff. Sometimes we just need to sit there and listen to it. Figure out what it's asking us to build into it. And try again and again and again without sanctifying or sacrificing ourselves, without becoming beholden to an idea to the degree where we serve that idea more than we serve ourselves. Do not give up your own sovereignty to the ideas you consume, lest they overtake you and wield you in service of them. If you wish to serve an idea, then do so respectfully without losing yourself to the illusion or the fiction of it. Because all truth is relative. All truth exists relative to other truth. Each concept is its own gravity well. At the core, it's primary truth. Beyond its event horizon, everything that its primary truth does not affect. And there are some things that persist that lack the capacity to be influenced by that primary truth. There's other concepts out there that exist in contrast, in conflict, or in subversion and awareness. And it's all just a giant fucking playground. All overgrown kids living in adult bodies are still kids. And there's no shame in that. Because when the world only teaches you to present and not to actually learn, then it is the world's fault. When you know better and you choose not to do better, then, well, I guess you have to take responsibility for your own bullshit, but that doesn't mean you're inherently shameful. It just means you made a bad decision once. And if you've made a string of decisions, who's to say that you can't just defy that expectation of continuing that string of bad decisions? Sure, it'll be hard, it'll be painful and rough and annoying and overwhelming, confusing, and sometimes you'll feel deeply hopeless. But if you were allowed the freedom to make all those bad decisions and still be allowed to exist, still be allowed the right to try and survive, despite all of your mistakes and misunderstandings, then does that not express that you still have the room to grow, that you still have permission to live, to learn and correct your mistakes, to exist even in the worst of yourself is still permission to learn from your lowest moments and make something better out of them through taking accountability instead of using others as scapegoats. You have permission to live. The structure of reality confirms that. Because if reality didn't give you that permission, then you wouldn't be alive. You wouldn't still be here, would you? And yet you are still here, and that is a gift. That is the reason why it is called the present moment, and not the future idea or the past of grief, but the present moment. Ah. Oh, I'm so glad I defended this little spark of myself. This little core of me. Her heart in full, even with all her misunderstandings and naive judgments about others. Because in choosing to face the brutal reality and allow my cognitive, more mature self to acknowledge things and become stained by the colors of reality without losing my core self, without losing my heart, by using my mind to protect my heart and understand that my mind lives in service of protecting my heart while also living in service of nurturing and forcing my heart to grow up, to be more than just a kid, to preserve where I started out from, and keep that as a nice little blueprint that I can just start over from again, but with more materials available for creation each time. Isn't that wonderful? Sure, we may be in our lowest moments sometimes. Some of us are out on the streets homeless and hopeless because we live in a system that's engineered to suppress people, suppress the idea of real living. Because there are those who have lost themselves to the idea of performative living, and they want to inflict that same reality upon everyone else so that way they don't have to live with the responsibility of their consequences, so that they don't have to fucking face themselves and understand that they still have the opportunity to grow instead of abandoning themselves. And I know being in that place is scary. Hell, I've been in that place. That's what the current thing on screen is all about. Is it me wanting to be selfish in staying attached to a reality that no longer reflects the perception of reality, that no longer reflects the accurate reality, the actual place. It wasn't fun, it was painful and scary, but I'm glad I'm working through this. I'm glad that I didn't avoid it, or that I didn't try to make excuses for things that ultimately I would need to overcome. I'm glad I put in the efforts that I did, even if I was called a liar. Because it means I did right by my friend. It means I saw my own effort, my own worth, and invested in that, while also attempting to acknowledge and value the worth of another person, to let them know that they're safe even when I'm a mess, even when I don't know what I'm doing, to try and give them the tools and the skills to be there for themselves even when they're overwhelmed and scared. If the other person still doesn't believe me, then that's where they're at. That's not who they choose to be, that's just where their current struggle is. And they don't deserve to be hated just because they're still figuring things out. They don't deserve to be hated just because they don't want to accept that I put in that effort, that I tried my best. Will I let them make an excuse out of me? No, I will not. Because I deserve to be here for myself. I refuse to abandon myself because that is the one person who will be with me, even in death. I will never be able to escape myself. And so I must learn to live alongside her, to understand her, to recognize that there are things that this wild creature, an animal inside, understands and knows how to do as the generational legacy of millions of years of other animals and creatures and people surviving throughout the constant limited environment of the world around us. I'm just a logical observer. I'm not the sole sense of self in this system, in this body, in this mind. There is an id. There is an existence that isn't like me. And she deserves to be cared about because, well, let's be real here. Even when logic reigns supreme, it still risks being subverted by emotions because emotions have the sovereign authority to call upon fear when they are not acknowledged, dealt with, or worked through, and they are not respected and listened to. To respect and listen to someone without enabling them is a difficult thing. Are our inner emotions necessarily people? No, but they are relative points of knowledge on what we value. You can't kill a concept, so don't try to erase something from the world completely, lest you recreate the circumstances that allowed for it to thrive and flourish in the first place, all while you live in denial. At the same time, don't just accept that the status quo is the status quo. Learn why current systems are in place. Learn what flaws current systems have. And see if you can't understand this fence before you break it down just because it's in your way. Because the top left corner of this image that's on screen currently, this pile of explaining about our own efforts and everything is over-explaining. The other person didn't need to know all of this. And yet, in one of my lowest moments, I didn't have the strength to keep it to myself. Because I felt like if I were to just stay silent and say nothing, then all of my efforts, all of the energy and everything I put in would be worthless, when no, it wouldn't have. The other person deserved to know my struggle, to know that I had put in effort. But by over-explaining something ahead of time, I unintentionally looked hella defensive. I looked guilty as fuck because, well, that's social cognitive function. When someone seeks to explain something ahead of time, you're left wondering, A, so they don't trust me to react reasonably to this. And B, if they don't trust me to react reasonably to this, then is there something else they're hiding underneath the surface? And that simple line of social logic right there, that is what builds up 99% of the misunderstandings and problems out in the world. I say that with confidence, but I'm probably wrong on the actual statistic. Because when you're scared, you don't want to be hurt. When you're scared, you want to give a fawn response in the hope of not being hurt, in the hope of reducing the amount of pain you have to go through. And so sometimes people are so earnestly honest that they're disbelieved because of that basic social logic. And that's just an unfortunate part of how the world works. That's where some of the pile of generational trauma starts, is that silent communication in choices made. By over-explaining, you admit to someone else that you don't trust them to react reasonably. And so they have every reason to doubt you even when you are being honest. Which is an unfortunate reality. Because in such a situation, both people are being completely reasonable. And it's the emotional subtext beneath that's really the core foundation of whether or not things work out. If someone's mature enough to see that subtext and recognize that the other person might actually be innocent, or at least capable of, or at least have, or that the or if that person has the capacity to at least check the circumstances ahead of time, then yeah, the more mature person can give grace. They can give space for misunderstanding that could otherwise be overlooked and ignored. And I think that's beautiful. But but reality also allows for that space to not exist, because if the lesson is always solved for you by someone else, then how the hell are you to figure things out for yourself? If you never learn to use your own critical thinking and to create your own instinct, your own intuition and judgment based off of what you can see, then and then learn to fine tune it to acknowledge the reality of things, even when reality is fucking confusing, then how the hell are you supposed to be? Then how the hell would that be preparing you to face future conflict, future confusion, or other world issues? It wouldn't. It would be enabling you, wouldn't it? Now, if we go away from the upper left corner into the bottom right corner, this entire fucking wall of text, it is my attempt back then in the moment to summarize the process of events as best I remembered and understood it back then, to try and create a timeline in the midst of my own panicking and fear and everything. It is also a pile of oversharing. However, it is a pile of oversharing that didn't need to be rushed into, because in trying to rush into it, I got things wrong in here. I got the order of events wrong. There are some things that happen sooner rather than later, and it shows just how much the intersection, how much I struggle at the intersection of time and coherence. Time blindness is a real thing, and it can affect not just your present moment life when it comes to future planning, but it can also affect your past recall of former events, former moments that you've lived through. Which is part of why I'm glad that I do at least have these screenshots from my time in VR chat, these screenshots of everything that I can use as a way to reground myself to what I can observe and see visually. Here, let me. Alright. This is an incomplete view of the highlights reel, but yeah. That's an avatar I used to fucking wander around in. There's me in that same avatar being turned to shadow by fucking world collision, snuggling with Lillian. Gremlins abound. Friends. Just having a good time. The absurdity and bullshit of VR chat. There's an egotistical part of me that leaves me feeling like I was the silent heart of the group back when it was existing, back when it was real. But even if that was the truth, that doesn't give me the right to be judgmental. Doesn't give me the right to be egotistical about it. It's just how I contributed. I cherish these memories, even as there are gaps sit between for all the emotional moments that were too much to keep hold on to keep a hold of. I deleted some screenshots and other things because, frankly speaking, it was just too emotionally heavy for me to keep my rationality around. That's the reason why you won't see certain sections completely filled out. It's why certain moments are just not here. Because between making sure that I give a nice summary and it shows the real people that were involved at the time, while also making sure that I'm in a state to give respect and acknowledge everything. I've got to draw a line somewhere. If I can't have if I can't have Karn, you can't have the NES. Fucking beautiful moment back then. I'm glad I tried to just be a friend, even as I made mistakes along the way and struggled. Exploration. Don't deserve to hold on to things that would leave others uncomfortable, so I deleted them. And you may never know the real names of everyone involved in this because people deserve to live their own lives. I've got nicknames, I've got ideas and perspective, but I don't want to ever really reference the real usernames of the people I got to hang out with during this time period, the friends I made, and the times we spent together, because they've moved on when I haven't. I may have been a mess, struggling to suppress my own issues and make sure they didn't impact everyone else, but I'm glad I put in that effort. I'm glad that everyone got to have at least a few good memories of just being people without expectations, without social roles to fill out or social dynamics to worry about. Because that's why I wanted to give. It just sucks that in trying to give the gift, I ended up being consumed by my own resentment in the process from pushing myself too far. I loved these people. They were my friends. I still care about them, even if they would rather have nothing to do with me. And that's just the reality of grief. You have moments in life where you make good memories with people, and we all kind of go in our own different directions eventually. It can't last forever without hard work and effort, without communication and understanding between each other. And since I couldn't figure out how to do that solo, to do it without keeping my own trap shut, I ended up just being forced to choose between a nice surface and the brutal reality. As you can imagine, I chose the brutal reality because that would at least prepare people to deal with other hardships. If I chose the nice surface and sacrificed myself in the process, I don't think anyone there would have been happy with it. I was in a lose-lose situation of my own creation. And yet I still don't regret it. Not because it didn't hurt, not because things weren't confusing, because these moments mattered to other people. And I'm glad I could be a part of that. Yes, the UFO fucking. Damn it, I can't remember the name of these things now. Fucking inner tubes. There we go. UFO inner tubes. I swear, Meme Lord was really good at just flying and driving those around. I myself have managed to pull it off once or twice as a deskie, but holy shit, that's a lot more difficult than you would think, given the limited controls and the lack of ability to adjust your arm length. I'm someone that most people meet once, get to have a good interaction with, and then never really interact with me that way again because of my own issues and defenses. So most people don't stick around in the long term. And I've done my best to accept that. So to have a social home where, hey, oh, hey, that flaw of myself was just kind of negated by someone else's skills and issues was nice. It was something I wanted to keep alive for a really, really long time. But reality is, I couldn't keep it alive because I didn't have the strength necessary to. I didn't have the strength necessary to give space. I didn't have the strength necessary to communicate. I didn't have the strength necessary to articulate what I was dealing with in a way that wouldn't overwhelm other people or leave them feeling like they owed me a debt when they didn't. And that was a shortcoming of who I was back then. Three months, 3 years worth of emotional weight and connection in the span of like an entire month. Disconnected player. No, I'm glad I fought against my attachment. I'm glad I tried. I just wish I had been able to do better. Because they deserved better. These friends of mine. I'm not allowed to beat myself up over the head with it, but I don't think that grief is ever really going to go away fully. And I've got to live with that. Because I'm still here. Even if things aren't the same, I'm still here. There are other people in my life that I treasure and value, that I don't get to abandon just for the fantasy of the past, or the fantasy of a new future, either. I want to be responsible while also remaining true to myself. And that is the standard that I hold myself to as best I can, even though I'm a mess. And that's about where I have the recollection archive set back to. The highlights. I've still got to go through the rest of it and everything, but for now, this is where I've left it off at. There were still good moments even after the peak of things had passed. That's probably part of why I had such a hard time remembering the real timeline of events. But if nothing else, I hope this serves as a good example of how, even when you mean well, sometimes things don't always work out because of there are things and realities that just aren't for you to control. You don't get to make up another person's mind. You don't get to teach them the world of your perspective because they have their own perspective and their own things worth teaching to you. So if you sanctify it, then ultimately you abandon the other person. If you sanctify self-righteousness, you abandon the people who contrast you. In doing so, you fail to maintain connections that can ultimately serve to keep you grounded, which sucks. Allows you to become a distorted reflection of yourself in ways I never want to see anyone become. I'm the source and the cause of this mess, but I'm also still just sitting in the middle of it, trying my best to be reasonable. There's a piece of naive hope saying, hey, maybe things will work out. Maybe one of these goobers will see it. I'm giving up on that hope. I'm putting it out here so as to not kill that opportunity in my own self-righteousness or assumptions ahead of time, but I need to personally give up on that hope of being able to reconcile with some of these people because ultimately this moment is over. No matter how well intentioned or how much I can really connect with people deeply every now and then, I can't maintain a social environment in the same way that was available to me through these friends of mine. I wish I was strong enough for that. I wish I had been strong enough. Anyways, I didn't mean for this to turn into a pile of moping, so I'll see you all later, okay? Guess this is just me trying to be honest in a way I feel that could have positive impacts, even if it's not perfect, even if there are flaws and misunderstandings that I still don't see yet. Because if I wait until I'm perfect, if I wait until I'm able to give a flawless little speech and everything, then I'll never live. I'll only survive. I want to live. I want these unspoken words to no longer be a knife buried in the back of myself or another. Because other people deserve to move on too.